Hello, today is Tuesday, October 27th, and this is an overview of what we did in Biology A. The first thing we examined is where is carbon in the meadow that we are investigating in the Manistee National Forest. What we asked our students to do today was to look at where organic carbon would be in this particular ecosystem and or where would inorganic carbon be. We discussed the different possibilities of where plants, animals, fungi, and other parts of the ecosystem would be classified. We also looked at the air and the soil, and we discussed where they would be classified on this chart. We took notes on this, which I'll share at the end of this short recap. We looked at the producers in the ecosystem, and the producers are the organisms that are conducting photosynthesis, and they obviously are organic. We also looked at the herbivores, which in this case is the rabbits that are eating the producers. The carnivores, which are the fox, which are eating the herbivores, also are organic. Most students agreed that the two main consumers, herbivores and carnivores, were organic. And they also agreed that the producers were organic. Decomposers were not often mentioned, but again, we have to remember that decomposers eat the dead stuff and digest dead materials for food, and they also are made up of organic materials and are located typically in the soil. When it came to identifying the different pools and where everything is at, the one thing that people had a tough time with is the atmosphere. But after a discussion in class, we agreed that the atmosphere contains mostly inorganic carbon in the form of CO2. There are some extenuating circumstances where you could have some organic materials in the atmosphere, and we showed like examples of where methane gas can be released by bubbles that form in water situations and other places. But in the most cases, our atmosphere is mostly just inorganic items like oxygen and CO2 and nitrogen and other gases that do not have high energy bonds. Our next biggest carbon pool is our producers. It's a very large organic pool. And we can see there we have lots of material that is in that. As you move up the food chain, the amount of organic material starts to diminish. The herbivores is up quite a bit, but not nearly as much as the producers. And as you can see, the carnivores do not make up a large pool, but are fairly small. Another large pool would definitely be your decomposers and your soil, both considered to be organic because of organic waste that gets broken down. I'll show you the notes that we examined as well. And you can pause this video if you need to jot down the notes for today. The last part of the class, we examined the activity that we wanted to open up, which is 2.1, which was assigned yesterday. The predictions thing for what you would predict in terms of where our organic material would be and how it would fluctuate. You were asked to predict what would happen if you were given 500 kilograms of fox, 500 kilograms of rabbit, and 500 kilograms of plants. In 2.1, number one, it asks you to make a prediction of 100 years later. How much of this material would you have left, or where would most of the material be? We gave some possible ideas for what you could predict. You could predict that the foxes make up the majority of material 100 years later, or the least amount. You could also predict that maybe they're all the same, or you have some other version of what you think could happen. Students were asked to then propose their numbers for their predictions and fill those numbers into the tables that are on 2.1. After you completed 2.1, you also had to complete the second part of 2.1, which asks you to make a prediction for what you would put in the meadow to come up with the ideal situation where you would have a lot of foxes at the top. Once the students completed those predictions, we showed them how the simulation works, and we opened up the simulator, and I'll show you that by going to our class. So here we can see the Meadow Simulation Lab, which is going to be worked on tomorrow in class, but we started it today. You can open up that simulator by clicking on 2.2 and then going to the link that's at the top. This link will open up your simulation, and you can make adjustments to your masses, and you can run the simulation to see what would happen. Again, we'll be conducting this lab on Wednesday, October 28th, and we'll be discussing the phenomenon that occurs when we get biomass pyramids, such as the ones down at the bottom here. I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and if you have any questions, feel free to email or contact Mr. Petit. Thank you.